But yeah, that's something that's always drove me crazy is these actors, like you'll hear that they're like these upstanding, good, or like even religious people, and then you like go see their resume and you're like, hmm, like I get it, like I know, but like you're gonna
Right.
tell
Like
me you're
I
bringing the
get you're
gospel
playing
to the
it.
world with Magic Mike, huh? Like okay, I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't
Well,
know.
and like especially, I can kind of understand if you're playing like a villain who, has everything fall apart on them at the end and those kinds of things.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like that particular McConaughey character from was it Dazed and
fast
Confused?
days confused. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that particular McConaughey character, it's like nothing ever comes of him, which I guess
Yeah,
to a certain extent is kind of the moral of that story, is
yeah.
that people who are like that, nothing ever comes of them. But I'd really have liked to, how in some movies they do those like post credits things where it's just like the
Yeah,
picture of the
what
person and
happened?
the little text box underneath. And for that particular character, still doing time for statutory
That's
in.
exactly right. You know, one of my favorite stories is Danny Trejo, right? Like
Okay, yeah, 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 yeah,
you know
yeah.
who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
So like
the
he
big gnarly dude.
yeah, with the big tattoo on his chest and
Mm-hmm.
everything, he had a rule that
Machete.
he would play bad guys like because he was just out of prison, so he got typecasted. He's like, but he had one rule that if he's a bad guy, he has to die in the movie because bad guys are supposed to die in movies. And so that was his thing. So like they would cast him for all the bad guys, but he always when he was a bad guy, he always died because that was like his stance that the bad guys had to lose and he had to die. So
Yeah,
I was like, I kind of love that story a little bit.
like seriously, when you look like Machete does,
Mm-hmm.
the kinds of characters you're going to be
Yeah.
cast as
Oh
for the
yeah.
most part. It's like that's fine. But here's the thing.
Yep. Yep.
You can't have me be like the hero in spite of being a villain.
Right. Yeah. I All right, okay. I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole of movies here pretty quick. So let's hit an intro and let's jump into it. Welcome to the podcast, Blue Collar Scholars. Not long ago, a group of brilliant minds met together at a pub to discuss their unfinished works. They recognized the value of coming together around delicious beverages and having meaningful conversations. That group was known as the Inklings. The Inkle podcast here, we're working to be the second iteration of that group. So pour yourself a craft beverage, pull up a chair, and join the conversation. All right. You have you had anything good, anything interesting, new and exciting?
So not tremendously exciting, but
Okay.
so for St. Patty's Day, I was getting together with a few
Mm,
friends and they were doing the cooking, and so I was tasked with bringing the Irish beers, and I went to the
mm-hmm.
local Total Wine and was like, okay. Now, granted, it was on St. Patty's Day itself, so it's not like I had no
Mm,
noble aspirations of I am going to find this really niche beer.
yeah.
But I went in there and like the Ireland section was just like wiped out. There was,
Really?
I mean, there was a 6 pack of something from like Baltimore, Maryland that was in there for some reason. And
That somebody dropped
two,
because they didn't see the Irish aisle.
I no, like there was a tag there for it. Like it was supposed to be there. And I was so very
That's funny.
confused because like it said on the 6 pack, brewed in Baltimore. And I was like,
I'm like,
that's not
yeah.
Ireland.
It's not
But
even Boston. Yeah, okay. Keep
but
going.
they did
Sorry.
have two of the like 4 packs of Murphy's stout.
Oh, okay.
So not Guinness, but Murphy's. And so I grabbed both of those because there were four of us. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'll officially clean out their Irish section of beers here today.
Mm,
And but yeah, they were and Murphy's stout, it's pretty standard. I would say one thing,
mm-hmm.
it was a lot less filling than Guinness.
Mm,
Um, and maybe a little bit more on the sort of chocolate notes and less on the
mm.
coffee side of
Okay.
things. So
Sure.
like a little, and not like cocoa, like actual like candy bar chocolate almost.
Yeah. A little
Not quite
sweeter, a
that
little less
sweet, but more
bitter.
on the sweet side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, real smooth, easy drink. You know, it is one of those things I do kind of like the way as someone who is still a big fan of hops and hoppy bitterness and things like
Mhm.
that, I am kind of more and more really enjoying the way the hop bitterness plays in a stout, where there are so many other like kind of, sort of earthy notes, like the roasted
Yeah.
malts and all that kind of stuff in there as a nice kind of play with it. It was, it was solid. It did the job while we were eating some like Guinness stew, which I thought that was hysterical. They were able to find Guinness for making the stew with,
Yep.
and I couldn't, but it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was us. We made a Guinness. The recipe called it a pot pie, and I was like, it was intended to be like kind of like a meat stew, and then you put like biscuits on top of it and bake it all
Gotcha.
together, right? But we had some like baseball practice and whatnot, so like I deconstructed it in a way that I knew I could like prepare it the night before. So like instead of cooking it all together, I separated them, and instead of having like a pot pie, we had like a stew and bread,
Yeah.
right? And so it was pretty standard. It was like chuck roast with Guinness and some peas and carrots, in it. And it was surprisingly good. Like I really liked it. And then the really interesting thing is we made beer bread to go with it.
Oh, okay.
And so I've only tried beer bread once, and it was like one of those things. Kristen got me like a little kit, like the Walmart at Christmas. Here's a kit of something that your beer aficionado would like. And she's like, oh, cooking beer, he's getting into it. So she got me a little stocking stuffer type of thing. And it didn't work out. Right. Like I think it was just the ingredients, or I didn't know what I was doing. But on this one, I knew a little bit more. And so like I had this big rounded hunk of bread. And so the beer, the air in the beer is what gives it
Yeah.
but there's not a whole lot. So one, Guinness is not the most carbonated. It's nitro,
Right.
right? So it's
Right.
small
Right.
bubbles. So it's not, this bread is not like a light, airy bread at all. This is like,
a dense
yeah,
loaf.
this is llamas, but yeah, this is putting meat on your bones, man. Like this is, I've never felt so much like what you would feel like in the country of just like the heartiest food that would last you so like,
This was a piece of bread where it's like, I can understand now how people thought bread was a meal once.
yes, yes, that's exactly what it is. And so, yeah, man, Guinness stew with Guinness beer bread. And then I had a Guinness with it. And I was just like, I can't actually like process any more Guinness into this meal at all. Like it's impossible.
Maybe make a Guinness butter to like baste the bread with. And
You know what? Like I probably would, I've tried to mix beer and butter before, but it doesn't work.
I was going to say,
There's something with like the carbonation or the acid or something, and it makes the the butter like curdle instantly. Like I don't know. But I was like butter, like I did. What was I doing? I was doing a turkey, and I was like, I've injected beer into a turkey. That was good. I've injected butter into a turkey. That was good. So I was like, I should inject both of them at the same time. That was not good. So it that was a science experiment that went wrong. So
I will say this is one of the few times where I've like really wished that we were doing a video podcast, just because your facial expression, you said, and that was not good.
I'm getting better at dealing with my failures. Like there's just so much of experimenting, but like normally something like that would like ruin like a day and a half for me. Like just like the butter didn't go well. Next 36 hours, I'm don't talk to me. I'm in a bad mood. Very fragile. I'm an alabaster doll here. Emotionally
Oh my
speaking.
gosh. Just too many lines. I'm an alabaster doll here. Okay.
All right. So I had an interesting conversation the other night. Thought it would be a good one to bring over, and it was with my oldest. She was. It was a weird night. So how old is she? She's 8, going on. No, she's 8, right in the middle.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through a lot of stuff. Like she's kind of towing that line between imaginary and real, like where everything was real.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's starting to distinguish between what's real and what's not real, things like that. But there's still a lot of things that, like ghosts and stuff like that, would still scare her, things like that. And so, like, the religious conversations have been hard because it's like, communicating these things that real and not real. But like, anyway, what happened was, like, I was just sitting downstairs working and I could hear her just like crying. So I go up, I was like, what is going on in here? And she is, in the pretty typical chain of events, like, I thought about this thing, which made me think about that thing, which made me think about death. And now I'm sad and I'm crying and I can't stop and I can't breathe and I was like, oh, okay. All right. So we took some minute, we took some breaths, and then just let her ask questions and answered them the best I could. And it was surprisingly difficult. And I was a little upset at the number of times that I had to say, I don't know. Not upset. I was disappointed kind of in myself. Like, I wish I was better prepared for it, but they're like hard questions that, like, nobody really knows. That's like, well, what will heaven be like? God, babe, I don't know. like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I know what it is in theory. Like, and so, like, we talked about, heaven is the presence of God, and hell is the absence of, like, being separated from, and using analogies like, you remember when I went on this trip and, like, you missed me, and that was like pain and it didn't feel good. Like, that's kind of like what hell is with God. Like, you are going to miss him and long for him, but you're not going to be with him. Whereas heaven will be like, you're with him and you're excited, And so I was trying to find analogies and stuff like that, but we got into stuff like what happens when you die, and do you go to heaven? And then, like, because there's the saints who are alive. Where are
Yeah.
they? What's going on with them? Like, and then you start talking, and, like, if you say, well, the saints are alive, right? And so that was one of the things I was using. I was like, there's proof, right? They do the miracles. Like, we have these verified proofs. And then it kept getting harder and harder to like explain these things. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. It was interesting, but it was hard to, oh, I know where I was going. I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. But what it was is she started to correlate very naturally the natural world to the spiritual world, right? So, like, the sky is heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and below the earth is hell, right? So, like, the
Right.
center of the earth, magma, lava, hell, and then, like, outer space. And so, like, trying to explain, no, like, God is outside of creation. You got the whole world in his hand,
Oh, please tell me you broke into song for
Oh,
her.
we did. Oh, we did.
Yes, love that.
But so I don't know. So it was interesting and difficult, but so I don't know. Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. One, because my whole goal is, like, I want to be able to speak to these things in a way that my 8-year-old can grasp them without being like, oh, he was just telling me imaginary stories, and she becomes, jaded when she gets older,
Sure.
or it breaks.
Well, so step one, did she feel better and go to sleep?
Yeah, I think, yeah, after a while.
Okay. So then congratulations.
Yeah,
You did better than any human being has the right to expect they will do.
that's fair.
Like, in that situation, you had an 8-year-old whose thought process had taken her into realms beyond her comprehension.
Yeah.
And you brought her back to a spot of, you know what, this isn't so scary after all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all right. So that's worthy of celebrating.
That's fair. Off. That's good. Yeah.
But I think the other part of it too is, like, I get, believe me, I get, it's frustrating when you have to tell a kid, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, for me, at least, when I get that frustration from having to say, I don't know, there are, like, two possible places it's coming from. One, a good and noble thing that hopefully will drive me forward. And the other, less so. The less so one is, like, sometimes it's just pride. It's like, no. this kid thinks I know everything. That's why they're coming to me with these questions. And I know I don't know everything, but it really feels good to have them keep thinking I do.
Yeah.
So the fewer I don't knows I give, the longer I get to hold on to that elevated position in their mind.
Truth spoken.
And I hate how much that does matter to me, but it totally does.
Yes.
The second part is just this idea of, it's like, there's this realization for me. It's like, oh, you know what? When I was a kid, I had a lot of these same questions.
Mm-hmm.
How come I don't know yet? Like, when I think about, when I think about the amount of stupid, pointless, but enjoyable knowledge I have about like sports, Star Wars, the Marvel movies, all this kind of goofy stuff, I'm like, wait. Hold on now. This 8-year-old kid's question about God is a stumper, and not a stumper that I haven't thought of before. Not a stumper that I'm stumped because I have wrestled with it, and this is the depths to which my limited human mind can process this thing. But no, this is a question that I thought of, and then shiny object, squirrel, like I'm just over here all over the place chasing a million different distractions. And so that frustration, when kept to its like proper level, can be like motivating. Like, you know what? I do. I need to spend a little less time on these things that ultimately don't matter and are just distractions, and a little bit more on coming to know God.
Yeah.
Not so that I can explain it to an 8-year-old, but because I want to know this stuff.
Right.
And bonus, if I know this stuff, I'll be able to communicate it. Not perfectly,
right,
but I'll be able to do something with it.
So do you remember like asking your parents those questions? And like the answers they gave you or anything?
You know what? I wish I could say that I remember the answers. I remember having questions like that. And honestly, your oldest and I have some things in common in terms of the way we process things, where like the difference, hopefully at least, the difference was for me, the way it normally started off is there would be something that I had like lied about, and I had as a little kid, and it's still definitely there, but I've done a pretty good job through repeated sinning of numbing myself to it. But like the guilty conscience in me, this is not a Catholic guilt thing. This is a like my version of just existence. Where it's like I lied about something and I got away with it and things are great until I go to put my head down on the pillow. And now there's like nothing here except for me and my own thoughts. And it starts spiraling. I'm like, oh, well, but what if I get caught with it later? Or what if I don't get caught? Well, but then it was the wrong thing to do still. And it just kind of kept spiraling and spiraling until like all of a sudden my parents are coming in to check on me because they've heard me open my door and go to the bathroom like 30 times in the past 5 minutes. Like, and admittedly, that's part of why I was doing it, because like I didn't want to wake them up and I didn't want to be up and get in trouble. But I figured if I just kept doing that, eventually they'd come in and check on me and figure out what was going on. But like ultimately, that was kind of the experience. Is I would start talking about things until eventually we got to the spot where like I admitted what I had done and was given kind of the, they were far too tired to give me a lecture at that point. And so instead it was just kind of okay, well, thank you for telling us. Now, next time, we'll deal with this in the morning. I don't know. The only other thing I remember is like my mom singing like church songs to me, like scratching my head to like try and calm me down and singing church songs to me as I would go to sleep. But like, I don't remember the specifics of the answers.
Yeah.
But I think
that's probably right. You probably, like you just said, the impressions.
And that's what I was going to say is to a certain extent though, like, and this is just me spitballing off of the moment, but like to a certain extent though, that kind of is the answer. Like, just think about what you were explaining to her about like the difference between heaven and hell as best you could to an 8-year-old. Like, hell is being alone. Like, it's you and your thoughts and you're overwhelmed and there's nobody coming through. you're sitting there crying, but instead of your loving dad coming in to check on you and be like, hey, what's wrong? And then just being with you and talking to you until you're able to like get back to a good spot, that's just forever. Like there is no one coming for you. Whereas heaven, on the other hand, is that idea of, you know what? Yeah, there was something scary, but it's not scary anymore because look who's here with me.
Right.
And
Right.
and look who's got me now. And so like, yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to answer the questions as well as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, but at the same time, I would also say, I think an honest, I don't know, and then just being there with her is a lot less likely to be something that does lead to that kind of like jaded, imaginary style faith than just putting together a fable or a myth for her right there on the spot to try and make things feel better.
Yeah.
Because then your plot holes become faith holes for her.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Because you're right. I mean, having a foundation on, what am I trying to say here? Because I'm not like I didn't have enough to build a foundation, but I had solid rocks. I was giving her bricks, right? Maybe not all of the bricks, but she had bricks. She didn't get like a brick and a squishy bit of mud, right? Like
right.
Whereas then when she started building on it, that mud would squeeze out, and then it would be, like you said, a hole for something. So you're right. I think there's something better to giving what we are sure about, and then being honest and say, and because a lot of it is, frankly, it doesn't matter in the scheme of things. It matters to an 8-year-old because like she wants heaven to be like, she thinks, she wants gonna want to see grandma and grandpa again. She thinks grandpa is gonna want to see his brother again. Like all of these different things, because she's thinking in human terms, as we all do, because that's what we are. Right. But it's yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing too, though, is saying you don't know gives her permission to not know. And like, that's actually a good thing. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like, I think a lot of times we feel like, well, if they think it's okay to not know, then they're not going to wonder, and they're not going to BS. Have you ever known a kid not to wonder? Like legitimately, no child has ever not wondered. But at the same time, it's like, no, and to the extent that we're able to, the more comfortable we can be with the unknowing and be like, you know what? That's an awesome question. And I really hope someday you and I are there, and then we'll know.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome is if when we're in heaven and we come across something that answers this exact question, if both of us just kind of look over at each other and wink, as if there's like some kind of a hidden secret here between us, because we're going to remember this conversation.
Yeah.
That invitation, though, into the mystery is genuinely kind of there in the I don't know.
But like you said, into the mystery.
I think what's really cool about the way you explained that, though, was, you want to make sure that the bricks you're giving are the solid ones.
Yeah.
These are bricks. This is clay that has been baked. It is solid, and it is ready to build with. When she's older, when she's in like junior high, high school, college, that kind of age, then yeah, absolutely. You can hand her some like muddy clay and be like, here, bake it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make something of this. But like really at 8, what you're wanting to do is, like you said, maybe not give her all of the stuff. You're not going to be able to give her all of the stones, but you want to at least give her that corner one.
Right. That was one of the cool things. So I've never, quote unquote, and this is going to lead to an assumption that didn't happen, but like I've never like led somebody to Christ, right? Like I've never talked to someone again and again, and then them say, you know what, I do want to commit. I
never walked them step by step into the church.
I have never done that.
Yeah.
Right. And frankly, I would be surprised if I ever do. right? I'm just that's hard for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
But so that was but this was even the first time talking to her, the very first time that I'd even like presented Christ to anybody, if that makes sense. Like, not that I've never said the name of Jesus in front of other people, but that it was like, look, like, it's about, like, if we want to be on his team, like, forever, like, if we want to commit and say, you know what, hey, I want to be in heaven with you forever, like, I want to be on your team and I want to commit, like, that's something that we can do. I was like, you got lots of people here who will help you. Your name got dropped. And then I was like, you got me, AJ, your godmother, we have the pastor at church. Like, you have lots of people. Like, if you're ready to say, you know what, I want to be there forever, then let me know and we can do that. And I told her, I was like, I even have like my commitment card from when I was in 5th grade, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still in my
Sounds
wallet.
about right.
Like, you would need to white glove it because
it's going to turn into dust as soon as it's oxygen to open air. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I still have it. I was like, we could even use the same one. And she's like, why would I want to do that? You're right. No reason. I just thought, I've only been saving it for 30 years.
We were having a moment. My bad.
Whatever. Sorry.
The problem is, for the rest of tonight now, I am just going to, every time I like I'm going to see her face saying, why would I want to do that? Like, oh goodness.
Oh, I love how genuine they are, and I want to keep it that way forever, even if it hurts my feelings a lot. But also, like, I thought it was really interesting too, because I'm struggling tonight because I'm processing so many of like my thoughts and emotions while trying to figure it out. So my brain's not connecting the dots as well as I'd like to. But it was also interesting to see, because gosh dang it, being a parent has taught me more about anything, or taught me more about everything than I've ever done before. And so watching both my girls go interact with the faith, right? And so there's a couple of things here. One, I'll start with this one, even though we could probably go deep on it, is that God has been, like, you used the word gentle the other day, a couple of podcasts ago, and I was going to use the word subtle, but it's not subtle. It's gentle, and it's just like this nice, consistent flow. And like, I feel like I can see my girls going in the right direction, and like, I feel like I can see God just kind of working in them and with them going in that direction. But it's not like aggressive. It's just like real gentle but consistent, and it's kind of amazing to see. And in tandem with that is the kind of progressive revelation, per se, or progressive revelation mixed with developing reasoning skills and imagination and overall building of knowledge and experience and thought process. Like I said, like the connection of, because she's talking to kids at school, like that was one of the things too. There was a conversation that said, oh, God and Jesus, they're the same thing. And I was like, yes, but no, but yes. I was like, we have a Trinity. And so I was like, one God, but 3 persons. And she goes, 3 persons. What is that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be a doozy. Let's just leave it.
Let's wait till we at least hit double digits on the birthday candles.
We'll come back to that one. But that, like the earth is, under the earth is hell, the earth is life, and then the sky is heaven. And that when you look up, they're up there and you can see them. And so these things, it kind of all go together, where you're not dropping these bombs. Like, if I had just like dropped a treatise on the Trinity on this 8-year-old, it wouldn't have helped her.
No, it would have freaking nuked her mind.
Yeah, it wouldn't help. And so there is this gentle, like, you just kind of keep unfolding things as they're ready and as they can handle them. And you try not to, like, this is something that I'm not good at because I'm a sledgehammer compared to everything. And so, like, I'm not good at unfolding gently. And so that's why I can say that it's God and not me. And so just giving them what they can handle without overwhelming them, but also not sacrificing integrity or I've always been an advocate for kids because they're so much smarter than anybody gives them credit for. I mean, you teachers see it, but like they absorb and process information exponentially faster than we do. Like they don't
Oh
have
yeah.
all of the dots to connect that we do, but their processing power is tremendous.
Yeah.
And so, like there is this kind of a skill of unfolding and working with it. And so that's where, like, it's really kind of exciting to be a part of it. And again, my fear always, which is why I said like worried about saying I don't know, is the fear that I'm going to screw it up. Right. Like the worst thing that could ever happen to me is for my girls to not believe because of something that I did or said. You know what I mean? Like
No,
that would
I hear you.
suck.
I hear you. But I think that's where, you know, we have to take a lot of comfort in the fact that, that whole saying that's, you know, it's overused, but I still kind of love it. That idea of the perfect craftsman does perfect work with imperfect tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
God's going to use your genuine efforts. Like, so long as you are genuinely seeking to bring your girls to him with your answers, that doesn't mean it's going to go smoothly. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to create some speed bumps for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you are genuinely seeking to bring them closer to him, he's going to find a way to use it to help get them there. But I think the other thing too is a lot of what you were talking about with that idea of how do you gently unfold it to him. I think this brings us back to one of the things that's kind of a life lesson for me is it is the C.S. Lewis approach to things.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ability to put things, understanding that God is simple. He's not easy to understand, but he is simple. Like he is one, he is totality. And so, like, don't complicate things. If you find yourself needing 25 hypotheses and things to explain it,
or a
you know what that
whiteboard,
probably means? You're not that close to the truth yet.
Yeah.
Like there will be ultimately a beautiful simplicity in things. That doesn't mean it'll be easy to understand or anything like that.
Right.
But, so focus on those simple truths of which you're sure, those bricks that are fully baked. Mm-hmm. You know what I know for sure, honey? That God and Jesus are one. They're not the same, but they are one. And like they're together in everything. And this is what God did, and this is what Jesus did. And look at how much they love us. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Heaven, and what's heaven going to be like? Everything we could have ever wanted, even the things we don't know right now that we want, we'll have those. Mm-hmm. And there'll be a lot of things that we think that we want that we won't have there because we didn't actually want them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll have to talk it. Well, so there was thing with C.S. Lewis we'll have to talk about next time because too, with I also have like this fear of creating a humanistic heaven for my girls too, to where they're seeking Christ because for their own good rather than, like I want it properly ordered as well. So that like, I will take that one on the next one. So my life lesson on this one has been kind of coming back to one of the things that my old bosses used to say. He's like, if you know it, if you can teach it. And I was like, and I agreed with him, all of these things I always, and even before I had that, nifty little phrase that tightened it all up, I used to make people teach things. So like I would train them and then I would tell them to go teach the next person because in the act of teaching it, you learn it better.
Yes.
And so that's been one of those things where it's like, okay, I still need to read more books. I still need to study my Bible. I still need to ingest more of these things so that the more that I learn and the more that I process, I'll be able to teach it to someone else. And then the ability to teach it to an 8-year-old the ability for us to talk about, like, I can fumble through all kinds of things and we can process together, but like be able to pull it together and present it to an 8-year-old as a baked brick that she can build on. That's hard. Like, that's next level. That's important work to do. So like, I think that's our life lesson is we have to keep working. We have to keep working, on it. We can't quit.
I'm so jealous of your life lesson. when I edit this, I'm just gonna like cut mine out and just leave yours, and then I'm going to record something afterwards and me saying, Brandon, I can't believe you took my idea like that, and then we'll just move on from there. No, dude, that's 100%.
Yeah, it's there, man. Because yeah, like you said, having to say I don't know is like, okay, yep, back to the books, back to the books. Got to get there. So, well, everybody, if you have ever had to stay up with a young one crying, hyperventilating because of the fear of death, as I did the other nights, you're going to need some coffee in the morning. And we have some coffee. We even have some dark roast because that conversation was probably pretty heavy. Not really. It's not that dark. Yeah. It's a medium, but it's good. But definitely jump on that website, inkledude.com. Go to the shop. We got some coffee. We'd love to roast fresh for you. We got some cool swag, some coffee cups for you. So yeah, that's how we would, you can support this show and these meaningful conversations, and hopefully how we can support you after your meaningful conversations. So you got anything else on your brain there, AJ?
Nah, man, I'm good.
Right on. With that, we will say
adieu.